Today I'm talking to Anne Armstrong, a mother, middle school teacher, and a published children's author from Nashville, Tennessee. Inspired by a statistic that revealed to her how little quality time parents spend with their children, Anne created and launched a project called MyGnomeOnTheRoam, designed to help create stronger, happier kids and more present and connected adults. I'm Tai Chi. At 19, I was a superstar and I was lost inside. I left it all behind, switched continents, and started all over. Years later, I found myself lost again, this time in the American dream. This is a story about awakening, about living the life you were created for, about going inward and discovering the joyous and purposeful person you and I are both meant to be. This is Waking Up in America. Anne, thank you so much for being on the show. I wanted to have an educator and another mom. So when I met you online through a great program that we both took, Revolution U, Jonathan Fields, love him. I loved your revolution called GNOME on the Roam.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, but let's start from the beginning, just to introduce who you are and what was what I call life before your awakening.
When I was young, I didn't know a whole lot about what people would ask you what you want to do. And I was really clueless about exactly what it was I wanted to do, but I knew three things. I knew I wanted to be of service in some way, to help people. And I knew pretty young that I wanted to be creative because all the rules and the structures around me didn't seem to be a very good fit, even when I was young. And I knew I wanted to be a mom. And so, I kind of made my way. My parents were both educators. So after high school, I went to the college where they both taught. And I started out with a degree in social work because that made sense. I wanted to help people. And one day, a dear friend of my mother, who was also employed at the college, came in and pulled me out of one of my classes and said, "I see here that you're majoring in social work." I was like, "Yeah, I'm so excited." And she's like, "No." I was like, "What?" And she said, I want you to help people. That's a beautiful way to live your life. Don't marry yourself to it. Don't get to a place where you don't have any options." She said, "Major in something else and then do as much social work as you like, because I promise you there'll be a day when you wake up and you'll look in the mirror and say, I've had enough." And so I really took heed of that because it took her, quite a bit of gumption to come and say that to me. So I did change my major to teaching. And immediately, although I did a lot of social work, I worked all kinds of different jobs, teaching felt like the place where I could express that creativity. And also I had some, freedom. You get summers off. You get encouraged to develop yourself professionally. And that just didn't happen in the social work world. So that all, fell into place, and I began teaching. But that whole mommy piece was still, the clock was ticking. And as I started to approach 40, and there wasn't someone significant, I decided I was going to take it into my own hands. And I knew plenty of wonderful single mothers, and thought, I would create that opportunity for myself. So I had planned to adopt on my own, and then I met my husband.
Oh, wow.
Just like on our second or third date, I was like, I don't want to be blunt, but you just need to know I'm on the baby train, and the clock's a-ticking. So, if you want to get on board this train, then you're gonna, you need to know that that's on my agenda. And if not, you may want to.
Right.
So he was on board, and so unfortunately, my body was not on board. And so we started dealing with some fertility issues, and eventually we got to the place where we had to say, what's important? Do I want to be, pregnant, which would have been lovely. But the truth was, what I really wanted was to be a mother, and what he really wanted was to be a father. And so we decided to adopt.
Oh, beautiful.
It was a magic, talk about life turning on a dime. That was it.
And that in itself is such an amazing act of love, to adopt.
And to be given the opportunity. I'm forever in gratitude to the birth mother who gave us the opportunity. Every Mother's Day I say a little prayer for her, and I acknowledge her even out loud sometimes on Facebook or something, and to all the others who I'm sure it might be a quiet little secret, but, they deserve such praise.
And that's what I mean. Yes, it's active love in both ways, really. So here you are, married, and the opportunity comes up to adopt. And you have the baby. Tell us about that moment.
Well, it was quite a moment because we had been prepared to wait a year to 2 years. And within 3 months, snowy Saturday morning, my husband had left for work, my phone rang 7 in the morning, and they told us not only had we matched with the family, but that the baby was born at 3 a.m. that morning. We had 24 hours to get to the hospital in another state to get him. And we had nothing. We had an empty bedroom, but we had, so I jokingly call that 24-hour period my labor pains because I was just manically trying to adjust to being a mom in 24 hours.
Yeah, and those of us who's been through, oh my goodness, I need this and so many shopping trips, but really, in reality, you don't need any of that. You just need an open heart and open arms to receive. And that sounds like that's what you did.
Well, that and a trip to Target.
Quick one.
And my sister has 7 children, so I think at that time she only had 4 or 5. I guess she had to have 5 because she has a set of triplets. But
oh, wow.
Anyway, so a couple of panicked phone calls to her about what kind of bottles to buy. And
so here you are with a baby. Did you get a manual with? I'm just kidding.
I know, right? They did not give us the manual, but the nurses were very lovely. But what happened was I had this blissful, 6 weeks of time at home with them, and it just, like we were talking earlier, it went by in a blink, right? And then it was time to go back to work. Mm-hmm. And I was not a person who really pictured myself a stay-at-home mom, but I certainly could feel him in his absence when I was at work, and so it got to, I just very quickly felt like, I'd blink and he was walking. Mm. And I blinked again and he was, his curls were going away, and yes. And he was becoming a little man, and so, so I was rushing home at the end of the day and trying to squeeze dinner and laundry and time together in. And as, he got older, he wanted more time and needed more time than when he was a baby. That so right. It gets more difficult. And I look at my sister with 7 kids, and I started to wonder, how does anybody ever have quality time and maintain their sanity at the same time?
Yeah.
Anne lives her dream life as a mother and an educator, but soon starts wondering, how does anyone balance parenthood with everything else? Up next, Anne's waking up moment, in which she decides to create a possible solution.
So you're working as a teacher at that time?
Right. The Christmas that he turned 3, we started this little Christmas tradition maybe you've heard of called Elf on the Shelf.
Yes.
So when he named his elf Addie, which is dangerously close to his name, but it's beautiful, and he thinks of him very fondly even now. But when Addie went back to the North Pole, to stay with Santa over the rest of the year after Christmas was over, he was really, really sad, like tears were shed on multiple occasions. And I found myself really sad as well, and I was like, what is this about? And I realized that it was about having a little moment together every day that was unique and creative. And I had wanted so much to share it with my sister, who has 7 kids, and I thought they would love this, and it would be so great for my sister as a kind of a way to do something cool with her kids. But her family's Jewish, so they don't,
right.
They don't celebrate Christmas. And so I started thinking, how could we do something like this, but add and change it enough so that there was an educational piece, that it was a little bit more about connecting than just, the mischief that the elf gets up to. And so that was sort of, I don't know, a seed that was planted. So I talked to my husband about it and asked how he would feel about me going to work part-time. Told him how I was feeling, and he's so great. He's always been so tremendously supportive of who I want to be and what I wanted to do. He's like, we'll make it work, we'll figure it out. And it was so funny, I still had a half a year to teach full-time, but just having the space and the thumbs up from him, within 3 weeks, the idea for the book that I wrote bubbled up in a dream, and I woke up frantically writing about it.
And so you were really, what you were desiring was more time, more quality time to connect with your child because of the time passing. Is that how?
For sure. And also some parameters for what is enough, because I feel like, maybe especially as mothers, I can't speak for father because I'm not one, but there's always that feeling of, am I doing enough for my child? And you can always find a mom who's doing more. And you can usually find a mom who's doing less, but I think we so often compare ourselves to other mothers, like the ideal mother in our mind.
It always seems like everybody is doing more because they're doing different stuff. So you can always have something that you are not doing like everybody else, which is, this is true. So, but we do beat ourselves up over that.
So I was looking around, just poking around, and I found a statistic that said that average family spends only less than 40 minutes per week of connected time.
Wow.
I was blown away by that. I mean, certainly you spend time, and I just read the other day in a magazine that the average child has 12 minutes of conversation with a parent a day. 8 of those minutes are barking commands. Change your clothes, get ready for dinner. Not mean, but just, the things that we do to help guide them through their day. So that means only 4 minutes are good questions and real connected conversation. And so the idea was how can we create how can we smash that? That's where my little revolution is. So we call ourselves a glitter and glue covered revolution, that we wanted to inspire families to just take little pockets of time that might otherwise be wasted. 15 minutes is enough to blow that statistic that we just talked about out of the water. If you spent 15 minutes 3 days a week with your kids in connectedness, like putting down your phone, being in a moment, having a moment together, and we're all about adventure, so having an adventure, that you'll begin to really truly blow that statistic out of the water. And studies show that there are so many benefits for your child, not only for your child, but for you, for your family, if you can do it. And lots of times people are encouraged to read a book, to eat dinner together. But sometimes those things are not feasible, so we designed all kinds of ways that you could spend 15 cool minutes together every day, and we've turned that into an app.
Oh, wonderful.
As a way to just add that creativity that Elf on the Shelf gives you, to little pockets of wasted time.
Yes, and what I found when my kids were littler, between the toddler years, it was really easy it wasn't really easy, but it was easier to find stuff that we could all do together. Even then, the littlest one was maybe a baby or 2, and the oldest was 7. So like with your sister, the age range is even wider, and it's harder to do something together.
Waking up to the statistic of how little time an average American family spends in meaningful connection, Anne creates Adventure Kit, GNOME on the Roam. Up next, how can you be more present to your family in small pockets of time?
So your app, to tell me, so it provides something to do. What is it? Age?
It's ageless. We really have worked hard to find. We divided the days into. We gave each day a theme, and so we have Make It Monday, where you may are making a recipe, or maybe you're making some kind of craft together. But it's all designed to be able to fit into 15 minutes or more if you like.
And you actually give suggestions, like give
Right.
a list of here's what you could do.
We even have started to build a little YouTube library of how to craft activities and things like that.
And sounds like your app, your GNOME on the Roam, provides that opportunity to really just be present and create that time.
And just to come up with something unique. It improves discipline issues and self-esteem issues, all kinds of things, just from those little moments of being fully present.
And I will take that to a place where, those little moments then become these everyday moments of awakening and connection and really moments of grace.
And you give yourself the opportunity to let your child be your teacher too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
There are so many times that Atticus will say something and knock me on my tail with his wisdom. I call him my tiny Buddha sometimes because he's so quick to forgive, and he reminds me sometimes. He'll just, He's a very wise little soul.
Yes, and we can't hear those little wise souls, and kids are wise. We can't hear them if we're constantly living in our noise and if we're not present. The one thing that I used to do with my children is really we would connect through music. I mean, we sang a lot at home. Obviously, they traveled with me, when I did the concerts, and one of the best moments for me was when they would come at the end of the concert and sing with me, and I could watch them grow right there on the stage with me singing, and we always sang the same song. It was such a gift. That was my 15 minutes when we really, truly were present to each other. So music is one way to connect. And then I wanted to find a good song for your story, and I sent you a few of my songs, and you picked Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod.
I did, almost immediately when I saw the list. There's a great movie that I haven't watched in years, but Dennis the Menace. In that movie, they are babysitting Dennis, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, who are this older couple who live next door. Dennis is this wild child who's always kind of rattling Mr. Wilson's cage, but they've never had children, and so he kind of is a jolt to them, or at least to him. And while he's spending the night, Mrs. Wilson goes to put him in bed, and she tells him the little story, Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, and he drifts off to sleep, and she goes to bed, and as she's telling her husband about it, she says, I remembered the whole poem that my mother used to say to me. I remembered it by heart. And she sits there quietly for a minute, and she says, I would have been a good mother. And at that point, when I watched that movie, I wasn't a mother. And I cried every time I would see the movie, even though it was hilarious, that moment. I could feel her, that little hole in her heart, because I shared it with her. So when I saw that you offered that, I thought that's the right one.
So thank you so much, Anne, for your work that you do in the classroom and obviously out of the classroom and with your own child and as a woman, as who you are, a beautiful soul.
Thank you so much.
Winkin' and blinkin' and Nod one night sailed off in a wooden shoe, sailed on a river of crystal light into a sea of dew. Where are you going and what do you wish? The old moon asked the three. We have come to fish for the herring fish that live in this beautiful sea. Nets of silver and gold have we. The old moon laughed and sang a song as they rocked in a wooden shoe, and the wind that sped them all night long ruffled the waves of dew. The little stars were the herring fish that lived in this beautiful sea. Now cast your nets wherever you wish, never afraid are we. So cry the stars to the fishermen three. All night long the stars in a twinkling fall. Then down from the skies came the wooden shoe, bringing the fisherman home. 'Twas oh so pretty a sail it seemed, as if it could not be. And some folk thought 'twas a dream they dreamed of sailing that beautiful sea. But I shall name for you the fishermen three. Winking and blinking are two little eyes, and Nod is a little head. And the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. So shut your eyes while Mother sings of wonderful sights that be, and you shall see the beautiful things as you rock in the misty sea, where the old moon rocked the fishermen three.
To connect with Anne and her work and stories of many of other guests on Waking Up in America, visit us on wakingupinamerica.net and also connect with us. Let us help you and inspire you to live the life that you are created for. Thank you for watching and see you soon.